That's very nice of them. Right then, well, after another visit to das Krankenhaus und ein nettes Gespräch mit einer freundlichen Krankenschwester, I thought the sunny ride home back to Itzehoe would be as good a reason as any to tell you all about the time that my ears tried to kill me. So get yourself a cuppa, I'll get the city out of the way, and tell you all about it. Oh, that is us finally out of the city, so if you're sitting comfortably, I shall begin. Now, in order to tell this story completely, we have to wind the clock back about 25 years to when I was a young 14 or so old whippersnapper. Actually, maybe it's a couple more than 25, but in any case, a long time ago, when I was a youngling, I used to unfortunately have relatively frequent problems with my ears. Frequent infections, moist, smelly. Sounds like the occupational hazards list of a lady of the night with poor hygiene. Until eventually these problems with my ears got so bad that I was referred to an ENT specialist who had a good poke around, did a CT scan, all the good stuff, and eventually told me that I actually had what is called a cholesteatoma growing inside my middle ear. Obviously, to me, as a literally wet behind the ears 14-year-old, had no idea what that was, but he went on to explain to me that this is actually a growth of skin which comes from the eardrum. Normally the skin from the eardrum is shed outwards, but if there's an imbalance of pressure for some reason, often caused by frequent infections, the skin can actually grow inwards into the ear. And after a long enough time, this forms a tumour of skin cells, which eventually starts to push everything inside your middle ear out of the way, making its way in a beeline fashion towards your brain. I think the self-inbuilt trauma protection systems kicked in at this point, and my little 14-year-old self just stared vacantly out the window and imagined better times. Ice cream, mountain bikes, maybe touching a boob one day, the fun things in life. And I missed the part completely where the ENT specialist then went on to tell my father that this growth of skin cells would continue to grow for the rest of time ad nauseum, pretty much until it would cause some kind of a complication with the brain, ultimately leading to my death. Winning! But obviously, that's a cut and dry decision, isn't it? Have the operation, don't die. Don't have the operation, do die, probably going to go for the operation. Of course, he went on to then say, oh, it just gets better. There's a nerve that runs through the middle of your ear, basically wrapped around and over the bones and all the other things that they need to get in there and cut and drill and scrape. And if this nerve is in any way damaged with the cutting and the scraping and the drilling, it would lead to paralysis on one side of my face, forever. It also gets better because he then said that all the nerves for your taste down one side of your tongue run through your ear. And if they get damaged, you could lose your sense of taste. Potentially temporarily, potentially forever. So with all of this horror out of the way, and bless his cotton socks, my dad actually sent me out of the room and had a little word with the ENT specialist saying, do you not think maybe you could have forewarned me about all of that splatter movie disgustingness before you just laid it out in front of my son? Turns out, of course, it's probably a good thing that the doctor did keep me in there, because my dad then later went on to explain to me that it was a flesh-eating virus, which it wasn't at all. But that's a whole other matter, and my dad's issue with over-dramatisation. But yeah, with all of the gore out of the way, he then went on to tell me what was going to happen with the operation. And what it basically entails is my ear being cut almost completely off, completely around the back, crescent moon style, flapped forwards, insert dad joke about being able to hook your ear onto your nose for the duration of the operation. They would then cut around my eardrum, flap that open like a trapdoor, go in there with various power tools, mostly drills, and drill out all of the nonsense that's not supposed to be in there, trying as hard as possible to keep as much of the hearing bones intact, because you've got 3 tiny, tiny little bones inside your middle ear that are vital to being able to hear. And once that was all finished, they then patch the eardrum up, possibly with a muscle graft from somewhere on the jaw, pack it all full of bandages and gauze and stuff, flap the ear back over the correct hole, sew it up, job's a good one. Long story cut to medium length, this all went pretty well, everything was removed. Unfortunately, about 25% of my hearing bones had already been destroyed by this growth in my ear, plus it had also damaged the hearing canal, the area around it, and I've now got an extra side cavity inside my hearing canal, which unfortunately I don't know the name of it in English. It's called a Radikalhöhle in German. I don't remember what they called it when I was there as a wee nipper. I mean, directly translated, it would be a radical cave, which sounds quite good, doesn't it? But anyway, yeah, because of these structural changes within the ear canal. Eardrum now doesn't move as well as it should. Bones are pretty knackered. And as a result, I was left with between 50 and 70% of my hearing on the right side. It very enjoyably depends entirely on how much water I've had to drink, what the weather's like, how the moons are aligned, how much there is in my ear. But yeah, between 50 and 70, so middling to acceptable. Although, to be honest, as far as I remember, I think it was a bit better at the beginning, but fast forward 5 years, and I actually had to go in and have it all done again because there was a little bit left. And everything ended up being a bit more scarred, a bit more dug out, a bit more just generally to be honest. So yeah, that was the state of affairs back then. I was left with reduced hearing on the right hand side, but always see the positive in everything. My home in London, shortly after that whole period, I lived on a really busy shopping street, and I could just lay down on my left ear, right ear didn't work properly, everything goes quiet. Wonderful night's sleep. PMA, ladies and gents. So that was then. In total, I actually did have 3 operations on that ear, because at some point they have to go back in shortly after the first one just to check that everything is gone, which was okay, but then it came back again anyway. Incidentally, going back to the whole growing until you die aspect of this adventure, it is surmised that it was actually a cholesteatoma that killed Oscar Wilde. So I'm in good company. And also, Bradley Cooper had one removed too, so I felt an extra special connection to him during A Star Is Born as he was struggling with his hearing and also being a musician, which I am too. So at the end of that film, while my missus was thinking, well, this is a load of depressing bullshit, I'm off, I was sat on the sofa having a moment, tears streaming down my face, just like really feeling it. I was method watching that film. So here comes the joyful twist in this story. We come back to practically present day. The 14-year-old is now in his 40s. And I started to have a bit of a strange feeling in my left ear. It was making bubbling noises at night, and I could hear my heartbeat, and just stuff that isn't quite right. Makes you worry a little bit. So thanks to the system in Germany, whereby you can take a lot of things into your own hands, I just made an appointment with the ENT specialist. Didn't have to go through the whole nonsense with going to the GP, getting referred, waiting for months for an appointment that you can't make, remaking the appointment to another appointment that you can't, you know how it works. I went into the specialist, he said, it looks a bit shifty, I think we should have a better look in there, I'm going to send you to the specialist at the hospital, because I think you might have the beginnings of a cholesteatoma. Absolutely brilliant. To say that I was a little bit depressed to hear this news would be somewhat of an understatement. I was horrified. Mainly because, as I already said, I'm a musician, and to end up being a musician who can't bloody hear would be quite difficult. And also, working on these videos without being able to hear that great, the sound quality would go down the toilet, wouldn't it, if I can't actually process the sound properly. But yeah, so I was very depressed about that. And obviously there's all of the risks that came with the first operation, all over again. Potential facial paralysis, death if I don't do the operation at all. But yeah, first of all, the thing that really hit me the hardest was just thinking, I'm going to be just as deaf in both ears all of a sudden, and that would be very rubbish. And then, of course, as it sunk in, far more importantly, just the fact that once again I was faced with this situation where if I didn't have this surgery, I would almost certainly die. So once again, my logholes were trying to do me in. Couldn't believe it. It's like the extreme version of when one of your eyelashes turns in on you, isn't it? It's like I've been your friend for all these years, and now all I want to do is cause you as much discomfort as possible. So needless to say, I went in to see the ENT specialists at the hospital. They had a proper good look and poke around in there, had an MRI scan. Ultimately, the conclusion was, yes, there's definitely something in there. We need to go in and get it out. So once again, another example of how the German medical system worked very well in my favour. I think this was on a Monday. I got an appointment for an MRI scan on the Wednesday. Friday I had another appointment with the consultant, and then during that appointment he actually got his calendar out on the computer and made an appointment for me to have the operation on the following Monday. Unbelievable. My head was just blown that it could run so quick. Although he did impress upon me that it was very important we get in there as soon as humanly possible, because every minute counts. The thing is getting bigger all the time, it needs to come out before it does any more damage. But at this point he also gave me a little bit of hope when he said to me, so did you have a titanium implant last time on the last operation? And obviously it was 25 years ago. I had no idea that they made implants to go inside your ear. So obviously the answer was no. So then he quickly told me about how if the bones are so damaged they need to be removed either partially or completely, they can actually replace them with a tiny little titanium implant that goes in there and takes the place of the bones, transfers the vibrations from the eardrum into your cochlea. The cochlea, incidentally, for those who don't know, is the snail-like thing that's just a coil of nerves, and that's how you hear. And he said that the success rate for these titanium hearing implants is really quite high, so there was suddenly a great chance that I was going to be able to keep most of my hearing and not end up quite as deaf as I thought I was going to be. I was very relieved about that. That was a big weight off my chest. So fast forward over the weekend, went in on Monday, had the operation, stayed in for 4 days. The consultant came round when I'd become compos mentis enough to understand what he was saying after the surgery, and he told me that this cholesteatoma, this evil growth inside my bonds, had actually begun to press on the wall of bone between the middle ear and the brain. So we were just in time, because things were about to start getting serious. So that was, once again, blown away by the fact that my ear, my lug hole, my harmless organ of hearing had gotten so close to taking me out. Couldn't believe it. Actually couldn't believe it. And truth bombs here. I'm going to be completely honest, when I got home from hospital after those 4 days, saw my missus again, it was like a wave of all of this just smashing down on top of me, and I had a little bit of a breakdown. I had a little bit of a cry, because I felt like I'd been through something. But of course, shortly afterwards I tucked everything back in, got my man back on, and all is good. So now today, fast forward another year, this is almost exactly a year since that first operation. Everything's healed up nicely. It was a bit weird for a while where half of my face was actually kind of numb, but thankfully the movement was still there, just couldn't feel anything. And I lost the taste in half of my tongue for about 6 months as well. That was weird, especially during a period where everybody's going nuts about loss of taste meaning you've got corona. Oh, so relaxing. But yeah, so just as it's all healed up nicely, hearing is working pretty well. I mean, it's not what it used to be. It's kind of like going from a set of Bose headphones to a set of, you know, the white ones that come in the box with the iPhone. But you just have to take it. I have to take the fact that that's how well I can hear now. And I would rather that than being deaf, so roll with the punches and move on. But anyway, yeah, just as everything is healed, everything is working fine with an asterisk, I actually have to go in and have it done again. Nothing out of the ordinary, no reason to panic, but this is what they call the second look, which is where they just go in, as I briefly mentioned earlier, have a little poke around, just make sure everything's been removed and everything is still tickety-boo before they stitch it all back up, and you hopefully go on for the rest of your life without any problems. So yeah, feeling a little bit apprehensive now. I've got to go into hospital for what feels like my 50th operation. Got to have my ear cut completely off, folded forwards on my face, all the nonsense going on inside. Maybe, I don't know why I just waved at the cyclist, I'm going mad. He looked more confused than me though, thankfully. Yeah, so not really looking forward to all of that, but again, it is what it is, it has to happen. There's a lot more people dealing with a lot worse things right now out there in the world, so I'm going to keep the mouth shut and not complain about it too much. But yeah, it's Friday now. At the beginning of the video you saw me going into the hospital to get my corona test so that I can be deemed as corona free, ready to go into hospital on Monday morning. So fingers crossed, hopefully that'll all go to plan, everything will be tickety-boo afterwards. So yeah, watch this space. I mean, who knows, maybe I'll get all splatterhouse gory myself and take you along and make some videos in there myself this time. Kind of depends really. Last time I had a private room for some of the time because everything else was full up, which was a bit of a bonus of overcrowding. Strange, but true. But yeah, so this time I might be in a room full of people, and I don't think anyone with their arse hanging out of their hospital gown is going to want me flashing a video camera around. But who knows, we'll see. But in any case, in its entirety, that is the wonderful, adventurous tale of how my ears tried to kill me. Thank you for coming along for this little gory tale of distress. I hope it hasn't been too specific and disgusting and, I don't know, weird. I mean, I told you I cried in the middle of it. Nobody wants to hear that, do they? But in any case, if it has, do give the video a like. Any questions, worries, concerns, well wishes, taunts and insults, chuck them down below in a comment, and I'll do my best to get back to you with a bit of banter. In the meantime, I'm going to go home, enjoy my last couple of days of freedom and being able to hear properly, because after the operation I'm going to have my left ear blocked up for 2 whole weeks, so much so that I can't hear anything. And as you already know, the right ear is a bit bonk, so essentially I'm going to be deaf for 2 weeks, so I need to go home and enjoy the fact that I can still hear. With that in mind, I do apologise if the audio has been a bit toss in this video, because I've probably been editing it with one bonk ear and the other one with a nappy on it, so sorry about that. But anyway, that is the end of that. Thank you so very much for coming along. I look forward to seeing you out there again very soon, although unfortunately there is going to be a bit of a break, because like the acrobatic hooker after a clumsy accident, there's going to be no helmets till May at least, so I'm not going to be able to make any new videos pretty much for all of April, because to start with I'm going to have a nappy on my head. But yeah, so I apologise for the break. Hopefully it won't be too noticeable, because I've still got a bunch of footage from other stuff that I need to edit and chuck out there. The good thing is, I'm going to be off work for a few weeks, so I'm going to have some time to edit some stuff without the ability to do anything else to distract me. So once again, see the positives. Yeah, so that's that. I'm going to go and enjoy the last twisties between here and home, and I will see you next time. Take care of yourselves and each other. So until then, keep your shiny, and I'll see you out there. Ta-ra!